from what I've observed in life, if anything of importance that you're striving for, poise and calmness is extremely important. You just need to be careful when it comes to desires, because the more desires you have, the more unhappy you'll be. You can have like a desire, but like certain things just require time. I also realized that most of the time when you really put in the work for something that you want, a lot of times it'll turn out better than what you expected.
Yes, I want to.
Check, check. 1, 2. We're back.
We're back. Just giving myself a little test there, yeah.
Dude, I actually have the jitters. It's been like 2 months since
Since your last ep?
since the last episode.
Word.
Yeah, so
Who was the last guest?
we did attachment theory. Are you familiar? Basically like how
Is it the one with the lady?
yeah.
Okay.
But it's basically like how you're raised and how that
Okay. Yeah.
changes your dynamic in relationships and all.
Yeah.
Okay, so Natty?
Yeah.
I was thinking what I wanted to talk about. I don't think music. I'm fascinated with your childhood. Just because, like, I've told you this, like, I romanticized New York growing up so much.
Yeah.
So what's like the most vivid part of your childhood? Like when you reflect back and you think of like one memory.
Okay. I'll go with the first one that comes up. Let me scan real quick.
Yeah.
I'd say probably moments at the park. Is kind of what just came up just now. Really just like playing basketball with friends or like climbing on the jungle gym.
So it's like good memories.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like it's like good memories with a little bit of like caution. There was always caution, you know. There was like a certain time that you probably wanted to be home. Things always popped off throughout the day, just something or someone. You know, in the city, you have such a high concentration of one of people in general, and then the more people that you have in a condensed area, the more exposed you are to different types of people. The types that I'm referring to are like, mentally stable and mentally unstable. And, if you're in a small town, it might not be frequent that you see someone who's mentally unstable, whether it be homelessness or just anything else, but in the city, it's literally all the time.
Yeah.
So there's always caution.
So growing up in Brooklyn, and I could see how it would be easy to romanticize the different aspects of life, right? Like I could see a world, just because like even if you think about hip hop music, okay, I guess we will talk music. If you think about hip hop music, like when you listen to certain types of music, it does fire you up.
Yeah.
Like when you're listening to like gangster rap.
Yeah.
So I could see how when you're growing up in those neighborhoods, you would be like tempted, or even like that's making it. But you never went that route at all, right?
Nah, definitely not. I from a really young age, I knew what I wasn't trying to be around. Like you can, where I grew up, like you can be like in the street or of the street. And I was in the street, but I'm not like of it. I was in the street because like you have to be like where I live. I'm just in the middle of your hood.
Walk.
Yeah, you gotta walk. You get whatever it is that you gotta do. You know what I mean? Like you gotta live. But I think of my cousin. He same age as me, but just completely different. There are people who have like almost like a propensity and like a desire for violence and like troublemaking and just mischievousness. That wasn't really me. I remember hanging around my older cousins because I'm the youngest of my cousins, and there were like certain nights where like they'd take me out to hang with their friends, and they were just so comfortable doing the stuff that they were doing or being where they were. Like we're in the middle of the projects in like some hallway, and there's just sketchy shit going on.
So you have like that sense going off, because like I remember as a kid when I would go to friends' houses and like their parents don't really have their shit together, and you're like, wow, okay, this seems off or dangerous. You did have that feeling.
Yeah, whether it was off or dangerous, I just knew I just wasn't like comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, I don't really want to be here. It was kind of like the feeling. And I remember that the memory I'm thinking of is I was probably like 7 or 8, and I'm hanging out with my cousins who are, probably at this time like 15, 16. And again, I have my other cousin, Jonathan, same age as me, and like he was just so comfortable in this environment. I mean, there's just stuff around. There's guns, there's whatever. And I was just like, I
Yeah.
want to go home.
Yeah, that's so. And your mom's probably a big part of that, right? Like, mom set you straight early on. Like,
For sure. It was also, for the most part, just me and my mom. And so, only child, there wasn't like there was someone else around. My dad, I would see him, we had like court ordered visitation rights. So on the weekends, technically I was supposed to be with him. That didn't happen all the time. But my mom made sure at a young age to put me around certain people and certain things, like especially in the church. Like I was on the step team, and
the step team.
yeah, like step.
I don't know.
Just think of like it's like a very intense form of like stomping
Okay.
as a form of dance,
Okay.
if you will. It's very militant, and so I was around these guys who ended up being my father figures. And if I wasn't there, then my mom would have me in like some performing arts camp or something. And if I wasn't there, then I was like at the park playing basketball with my friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, she played a big role for sure.
We've always had that like creative. I know like last time we were shooting hoops, you told me that you wanted to be an actor first.
Yeah, man. I was I specifically wanted to be the next Denzel. Obviously, my mindset has changed a ton since then, but like that was what I was aspiring to be.
Yeah. And it probably like this is something that's kind of interesting to think about. Like me being from small town, 1,000-person Kansas.
Yeah.
You being from Brooklyn. Our possibilities of like life were probably so different. Like,
dude, even when you tell me your story, I'm like, how? Like when you tell me about Dallas, I'm just like, how did you end up here? It's the way you were thinking as a kid. Like you knew that you wanted to go to New York.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're from Wichita, right?
No. Like the town that I grew up, like I grew up in the country, first of all.
Okay.
Like, that's like my first memories are, we lived on a farm.
Yeah.
Like that was my first memory.
Yes.
Then we moved into town, but it was like, I didn't really, that would be called Hudge. But like I went to school in a town of 1,000. And like we were kind of like on the countryside of town. So I would say like the time I spent, or the town that I spent all my time in, was Nickerson, Kansas. Population 1,000.
See, and it's so crazy because I remember when we were playing at the park that day, you were like, you had been thinking about New York, and I'm like, how would you even know to think about New York and a place that small?
Yeah, like New York was my dream. Like that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to work for Sirius XM doing a radio show. Like that was my plan.
Now, when you say New York, you're in your mind at the time, and probably still to this day, even though your exposure to New York is a little bit more, you're thinking of Manhattan and the city, right? Yes. Empire State Building, everything else around that.
I mean, in my mind at that age, yes.
Yeah.
Like as I started going to New York more, I started like going to the boroughs and exploring, but not like a ton. I think from anyone outside of New York, it's like Manhattan is kind of
Yeah.
the city. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's like where I thought I would be. Why does Dallas make no sense to you? Like, you always bring that up, that I lived in Dallas and how that trips you out.
I don't know, dude. It's probably just because of what I know about Dallas and probably like my preconceived notions. I've also never been to Dallas. Like I've been at the DFW airport,
Yeah.
but it's just like to be in Dallas by yourself. I'm like, what? I'm just like, what? Like you didn't know someone and you moved, like you were just like, yeah, I'm going to Dallas. And then it's like, okay, well, and then what?
Dude, have you ever got out of a toxic relationship before? You just fucking move to the first place that you get a job, man. That's what it is. Uh, but yeah, man, like back to like the original point, like our viewpoints had to be so crazy growing up because maybe I'm wrong here, but like I would think you would have exposure to like, yeah, anything's kind of possible. Like I would think if I grew up in New York, I would have this false, maybe it's not false, but like this idea that, oh, you just have to do this and then you become a star or whatever. Whereas like where I grew up from, like no one becomes a star. It's here's kind of how it is. It's like, oh, the person in the neighboring town co-wrote a song for Chris Stapleton. Like that's like,
yeah. They've made it now.
They've made it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when you were growing up, did you feel like the NBA? Because I know the NBA was like your first dream. Did you feel like, yeah, it's just that's what's gonna happen?
Man, I'd say that when I was growing up, it felt like the only way out of where we were was like to make it to the NBA. As a kid in the Brooklyn that I grew up in, your exposure to success with people that, you know, look like you, it was mainly, you know, athletes and music artists. And I gravitated towards basketball.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess to answer your question now, like I have almost to the point of delusion. I've always, as a kid, thought like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. There wasn't like
basketball.
Yeah,
Or
meaning basketball for sure. Yeah. Later on, that you know ended up kind of shifting towards really anything. I still feel that way. There's like this kid inside of me that's like it's just a matter of time. But if there's something that I want to do, like I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love, and that's part of like what I wanted to talk about today. Because first of all, for people that don't know, Tarik and I have been friends for 5 years.
No quotations.
We've been friends for 5 years, but we hadn't met until about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's 11:30 at night. I'm sleeping. If you know me, you know I'm sleeping at 11:30 at night. That's my thing. And I get like a call from Tarik and a text from Tarik, and he's being super vague, which I do not appreciate.
Yeah.
I always think something's wrong.
It was like a Thursday, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm not staying up till 11:30 on a Friday. Saturday, did that matter? But you were just like, yo, I got to tell you something crazy. So I hit you up the next day and you're like, I'm in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And so we meet up, me, you, and Natty. We go sit on a rock.
Yeah.
And we just like cool evening. And then like during that night, you're like, yeah, we're moving here.
Yeah.
And just like trippy to think 2019, before COVID even, we did our first podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched part of it today. It was tough. It was a tough watch. I was a sad boy. I was so sad.
Different time.
Dude. Yeah, different times. But now like we're here in the flesh. But something that I've observed just like hanging around you guys is, and I mean this in the most loving way, but you're like the most motivated, nonchalant, chill person I know. And so like my question is like, how do you like to go about life? Like in your day-to-day life, like, because it seems like you're always like, yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Also, here's this new song I just made. Yeah, I've never even seen your fucking mic hooked up ever. I mean, I've only been to your place once, but like, I'm just like, how do you find all these pockets of time? We're like, how do you float about your day?
That's an interesting question. I can't say I've ever been asked that question in that way. I almost kind of wish Natty was like,
I was regretting not having that mic.
Yeah.
I can see her itching over there.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like the more I've gone through life, there are certain times where I feel like the people closest to you might have a more accurate account of like what you look like or what you're doing than you.
yeah.
Because oftentimes maybe I'm not watching myself, or I just want to make sure that whatever I'm saying is accurate. But the way that I like to go about life, firstly, is calmly.
Yes.
Like, and when I say calm, I mean serene, at peace, free of stress, free of anxiety, free of emotions that dictate your pace of thinking, your heartbeat,
Yeah.
right? Like you're
Speeding you up.
Yeah, even driving, like you'll notice like who's in control of your pace of life in general, or what emotions. And so I like to make sure that calmness is at the center of it. And that's really important to me because I feel like if I want to do anything important, from what I've observed in life, if anything of importance that you're striving for, there, like, poise and calmness is extremely important. It's like, do you want a surgeon doing heart surgery on you, when they're like anxious or jittery or like not sober and at peace? Or do you want someone who's calm, steady-handed, right? Like anything of importance, for the most part, you probably want to be calm, even in really intense moments, right?
Yeah.
A heart surgery is intense, a championship basketball game is intense, but you want to have a certain state of poise. So I always strive for that first, whether it be through meditation, whether it be through just sitting outside and like, staring at the sun, or paying attention to like the sun peeking through the leaves of trees and like the trees kind of dancing in the wind, like these small things. Like these are the things that have become really important to me. And then from that place, I already feel like I can do anything, but when I'm, if I'm poised, peaceful, and calm, it's just like, come what may, whatever it is, like, let's do it. So like you said, if you hit me up, I try to make sure that I'm open and available, if that makes sense.
You guys are just kind of like go with the flow in a way, but like in a
Yes.
disciplined way. Like,
Yeah, prepared to be prepared to go with the flow.
And it's like understand the state of being that you have to be in to go, and like not to be the resistance point.
you can come in if you want. We can just keep this mic. Like,
Sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. I just wish we would have mic. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all good. So like with peace, I feel like to me that just like frees up decision making. Like,
Yes.
because like Steph Curry, right? They have the tracker on him. Something, I forget what exactly his beats per minute were, but it can be clutch time and his heart rate doesn't raise at all.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about when you could be like in an NBA championship game and you're just ticking at like 80 beats per minute.
Yeah.
Insane. But that is what allows you. Like, I'm someone that when I played basketball, I was an awful free throw shooter. Awful. Mid-range was wet, but like it just never translated. But I would get so worked up at the free throw line, like that I was not calm.
Yeah.
And I didn't know at that age, like, I'm 16, 17 years old. The podcast world isn't really out yet. Very limited on resources to know like that's what's going on, that I could just take like 2 deep breaths and actually make the shot. But yeah, like that seems like a good foundation to wake up or to start your day with. And to me, it seems like you guys live, and maybe I'm wrong here, I'm just like viewing from the outside, but like with your non-negotiables, like, okay, we're gonna knock these things out today to make sure that the rest of our day is like fluid. Does that sound right?
Yeah, to an extent. I'd say like I like to knock out things that have a finish line. Like if there's something that like once I do it, it's done. It's it's not ongoing. Let me get that out of the way. A song is a perfect example, right? Like there's times where like it'll take me a while to finish a song. It could be weeks, it could be months, whatever. These days it's more like weeks or even days. But eventually I reach a point where I'm like, okay, I gotta go finish this song because there is a finish line to the song. And the beautiful thing about a song is like once it's done, the song keeps going. It doesn't like the recorded version of it doesn't have a finish line. People might stream it for
It keeps
years to
living.
come. It keeps living, yeah. Laundry, right? Like that's a task. It has a finish line. So I try to get those things out of the way. That way, if there's something that is ongoing, like my music career is ongoing, my relationship is ongoing. There's things that like, you wake up and you're still going to have to do them.
Yeah.
But there's certain things where it's like, let's knock this out. Let's knock this out. And I really do try to do that as much as possible so that absolutely, so that I'm free for whatever else might come up. Because if I'm here with you, but I'm thinking about this little task
Right.
at home that I know I should have finished, then I'm not really here.
Yeah, that's something I've been trying to do lately. I don't know about you guys, but the holidays always throw me off. Like that, I hate to be like a person that says I dread the holidays because there's a lot of good that comes with it, but I'm so routine driven
Yeah.
that the holidays actually kind of fuck me up. Like, and then I get out of like a good headspace. And just a couple weeks ago, I finally started to like rebound. Like I had to take a break from the podcast. I just was like not in the ideal spot,
Yeah.
But like as I get back in routine and as I check things off the list, it's just like all momentum. And it's like, okay, now I can do this because but like when you're sitting on the couch and you have 15 things to do, maybe you should feel like shit. Like maybe that's like maybe that's like the universe like guiding you. Yeah, like you probably should be chilling on the couch right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so something I've learned from you, I think this was like a couple years ago, that like really stuck with me is like not wishing for things or not being like, I want this, I want that. So since I have like probably a lot of new listeners since then, can you like run us through your mindset around like not wishing for things or not being like, I'm going to be in the NBA, I'm going to be on the Billboard Top 100?
Yeah. This really a mentor of mine, he doesn't know he's my mentor, but this guy Naval, he says you just need to be careful when it comes to desires because the more desires you have, the more unhappy you'll be. A desire in itself is essentially an admittance to oneself that you don't have something. So on a really subtle level, you're already this term is so overused, but you're in a state of lack, if you will. I think also like life isn't always 1 + 1 = 2. A lot of times it could be 1 + 1 plus a couple of days or a couple of years = 2. And so a lot of the times our desires don't really account for life just being life and for obstacles, for unexpected turns, and for time. You can have like a desire, but you like certain things just require time. If you want to build a car, it's not like in a couple of minutes you're going to have a car built. It's going to take time. But mainly, what I noticed early on is that anytime that I formed a desire, my emotions would naturally gravitate towards that desire. And if that desire wasn't fulfilled, um, or not fulfilled yet, my emotions would be on like this roller coaster ride. It's like the closer you get to it, the happier you are. The further you get to it, the more unhappy you are. And so I just didn't want my emotions being controlled by my desires. And so I was just like, I also realized that most of the time when you really put in the work for something that you want, a lot of times it'll turn out better than what you expected. Like, I don't know if you knew that you would be in this type of podcast environment setup when you first started your podcast,
Yeah, no way.
right? Like, it's better than what you expected because you actually put in the work of podcasting. And so I was like, let me let go of the desire, use the desire as like the North Star or the top of Mount Everest. It's like, obviously I know where I'm trying to get. Sure, I want the car, I want this, whatever, like cool. But then you set that aside and it's like, okay, what does it take? And let go of the desire, let go of the time, and like, let me just do these steps. And if I do that, somewhere down the line, I will be either closer to where I want to be, right where I want to be, or beyond where I want to be. Or I fail, but at least I spent my time doing the thing that I knew I wanted to be working on.
Yeah, to me, it's like inputs and outputs, or like, I think that's right, inputs and outputs. Like, you put the input in, but if you're only looking for like the outcome, then you can't focus on the input because you're just like, this is where I'm trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna go. Take it back to hoops again. It's like if you walk into the gym day one and you're launching curry threes,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe probably start out with a layup. Like, you got to learn how to shoot up close first, and like really falling in love with that like journey, I think is the only way that you really get that far, because it's just too much work. Like even podcasting, like you got to prep. It's just too much work. Even though it's fun,
Mm-hmm.
it's work. And to do something weekly, to make music like nonstop, if you truly don't enjoy like the process of getting to that point, then it's all pointless. Because like I've had to do this a lot with myself, where it's like, okay, do I want to be, because I used to make music, just like, do I want to be a musician, or do I like the idea of what comes with being a musician, which is what it was. Like, I was in college, all the white rappers were starting to pop off. I'm like, okay, I can do that. So yeah, it's like, that's another layer of it, is it's like, if you don't really want to be a musician, you can't put in all that work because you just want like what comes from being a musician.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like that's where you just got to really find like what lands with you. And I think everybody has it. I know a lot of people say like they don't know what their passion is, but like I guarantee they have a passion. They just have to find it. And that's like part of trying new things and all of that. But yeah, like I truly think if you're not invested in the day-to-day work, and like that's not what gives you those butterflies and all that it's hard to get to the end.
Yeah, very true. I think it's also important to just be the kind of person that gets shit done.
It's a good point. Like,
right?
Like that's where self-help can be so dangerous, because you can go down these
Mm-hmm.
paths of like, you got to wake up and make your bed, and then you have to like
Yeah.
drink one glass with lemon water and salt,
Yeah.
and then go read your 10 pages and go outside and but like, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't need any of that. Like there might be a phase of your life where that helps. Like it helps you to form a discipline. It gets you into a certain space. There's a compounding effect to actions like that maybe
There
they
is.
put you into a certain, loop that's more serving than wherever you were before. But really simply put, like, as long as you are devoted, this is like my qualm with the whole passion thing. Like, at different times throughout someone's life, there will be things that you want to do.
Yeah.
it could be as small and simple as like going to the gym, or as big as like wanting to go to Mars. But if you're not the kind of person that takes initiative and like just does what it takes, no matter how small or large the goal is, even if you have passion, you can be in like working on something that you have a passion for, and you will eventually run into a point like where motivation kind of phases.
Oh,
Right?
motivation will
It
always
will
fade.
always phase.
Yeah.
And like your mind will tell you that you're not passionate about the thing that you're doing anymore, right? Or that you're burnt out, like all the stuff that the mind makes up. But if you're just the kind of person that's like, no matter what's happening, I'm gonna do this, then eventually things will get done. But like, that's like the most important thing. I think that what I notice in people is just like a lack of devotion to whatever it is it might be. Just like, don't sway so easily the moment that like you don't feel like it, or like an obstacle comes up, like whatever it is. Like, I do think that there's a point where maybe there's something that you don't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
I leave space for that. I understand that, but that's not what we're
I
talking
think
about
you
here.
know that though.
Yeah, exactly. You'll
It's
know.
not, I don't want to do this
Yeah.
today, and then it's like,
What's scary though is if you are not the kind of person that gets shit done, and you form a habit of starting and stopping, you won't be able to tell the difference between when you actually don't want to do something, or if it's just your mind in the habit loops, like quitting early again.
yeah.
Right? That's why it's important to like push through, to like complete things, finish things, like whatever it is, like do it. Even if you do something that has like a finish line and you finish it, let's say you reach the top of Mount Everest, and then you realize like you actually don't enjoy hiking. You didn't really lose anything. You got better from like the climb,
Yeah.
from the process, right? Like, so it's like, okay, you don't have to do it again. You can switch to something else.
Right. Yeah, the self-help world can be very like interesting, I think. Like,
That's a gentle word.
and I know you've dove into it, I've dove into it. There's a danger of listening, reading, whatever, and it feels good. You can read a book on your couch, or even worse, you can watch a YouTube video on your couch that's telling you how to improve your life.
Yeah.
While you're eating Doritos, and you're like, it gives you that same feeling.
Yeah.
It really does. It gives you that same feeling of, hey, you're doing something right. You're doing something good. And it's just like a dangerous trap. I would almost call it a trap. But I think you have to go. There's a part of me too that thinks it's step one. Was it you that said like first you learn it and you unlock it?
Yep.
I was gonna quote my friend, but you are the friend.
I'm not the only one who said that. So
Yeah, it's like you learn all the shit and then you unlearn it. That's the perfect way to put it.
100%.
And so on that note, let's think even like the last year. What's something you've kind of gotten away from? Something that maybe you like were a big believer in, but now you're kind of getting away from.
I was just talking to Natty about this the other day, but in music, whether it be music or not, but for me, it's been through music, this thinking that doing something full time means that like you wake up and you do nothing but that thing. Like, for a large part of my career, I thought that doing music full time meant, I don't have a job, and I wake up and I work on music, and that's like the only thing I do. And I've gotten away from that notion because it's actually not true. Because now I actually do music full time, and although I don't have like a day job, at the moment and I'm just working on music, what I realize about doing something full time is it has nothing to do with um, a day job. It has nothing to do with time, really.
Making music?
Yeah. Making music or anything. If you do something full time, like what it has to do with is your mindset around the thing that you're doing. And if your mindset is of the fact that this is like what I'm devoted to, this is like what I'm working on, what I've learned over the past year is that opportunities will unfold for you, and then you'll find yourself doing more of the thing. So like it we're in Mexico a week ago, and I'm getting some emails to my phone for around music. One's from my publishing company that I'm signed to, but then there's a couple of songs that I finished before we went to Mexico, and there's multiple producers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in, a text message thread with one producer, an email thread with one producer, and a Discord thread with one producer. And so my day is naturally like I'm working on music, even though I don't have my microphone in hand and I'm not recording. There's like work that's been done. And so now, we're coordinating all these things. The second that we get back, I have a list of things that I need to do. There's always something that needs to be done. And I think that's what doing something full time is. It's putting yourself in a position where there's always something that needs to be done. And I think that's really true anyways. If you've worked at a restaurant, a manager or like the owner will always tell you, even when there's no one there, there's always something
Start cleaning.
to do. Yeah. And a career or a choice of path is very similar, where as long as like you're truly invested in it and you're truly paying attention to all facets of it, there's always something.
Yeah.
And that understanding that and then leaning into that, that's all it takes to do something full time. And you can have a job while doing that.
Yeah. I think the problem is that the job is so like in everyday life, like a job is demanding and it almost in some cases will require that full attention. So
For sure.
So it's like freeing up. It's probably more than anything freeing up emotional space, because I think with creating, it's hard to schedule writing a song. Like, I would think it would be hard for me.
Mhm.
It's hard to schedule kind of creative pockets. So you almost need like that emotional freedom / time freedom to be like, oh shit, boop, into the studio, go time.
Yeah. It's also just maturation and thought process too, though. And it's kind of gutsy, and there is a moment where like you do take a little bit of a risk, but it's like important to understand 6 months ago or 7 months ago, I had a day job that, it was demanding of my time. But when I parted ways with that job, I said to myself, okay, before I hop back into another job, I'm just gonna do this. Like, and I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't have a ton of runway. I actually had no runway at the time. I had literally like none. We ended up moving to like a different part of Arizona to a cheaper house, like, and we scraped it together. But I was like, I'm still gonna stick with this. I'm just gonna do it. And though there were times of uncertainty, there were times where I was late on rent, like late on car payments, like everything. I was just like, I'm gonna do this. And what eventually started to happen, like fast forward to now, what I was working on, which was music, it started to respond. And I'm not like, I don't want this to be taken as like wishy-washy words. I'm not just saying this. This isn't like inspirational talk. I mean, like literally, I became busy with work. Things, opportunities, whatever, sync placements, emails, meetings with producers. Like now more producers want to work with me. And so there's stuff to do now. And like I have to tend to it because I'm busy doing it. And I'm saying this as someone who, like, I thought before, like, yeah, like a job, it is, it does demand my time. But what I realized is if I went back 7 months ago with this mindset right now, after my job was done, I would have just locked in more on this exact thing.
Yeah.
I would have, like, operated throughout my day understanding that, like, this is what I'm working towards. And the job is not something that's separate from it, but it's actually like the vehicle that I'm using to be able to, like, fund and put more time into the thing that I want to do. I don't know if this is, like, making sense, but it's like the slight mental shift where it's like full time I am a music artist. Like, what that means is, like, the of my available time, and, like, to the fullest capacity that I have, even if it's, from 5 to 9, because I work a 9 to 5, this is what I'm going to do. If I don't feel like recording because I'm tired from a 9 to 5, then I'm going to do the admin stuff and the business side of music.
Like, you could find something.
Something. There's always something to do. And, like, that's the part where I had to make that switch. And, like, it was like when I did that, because I kept finding the little things that I had to do, like, more stuff ended up getting done. And then
It sounds like you had to quit the job, though, to figure that out.
well, 100%, 100%. But it was a decision. Like I said, it was like, it was maturation of thought, man. When I was let go of from my job, I asked myself, I was like, okay, it would be really easy to go get another job, like referral, whatever, apply to a ton of jobs, whatever. Like, I could find a job.
Yeah.
But I'm like, at what point in my life, if I'm looking back, at what point did I, like, really give this my all?
And that is a scary thought. Like,
Because what I realized is I never did.
if you really love something and, like, you are convinced that, like, if you don't give it your all, that is a scary thought. It really is. And it's so funny to hear you talking like this, because I'm like, in my mind, you were doing music full time 10 years ago. He's like,
Yeah.
6 months ago. So that's just also like I'm sure there will be a time in the future where you're like, okay, now I'm doing music full time. Like, now I'm doing, like, it's just proof of, like, the evolution of, like, the journey and how you have to do certain things to switch it up. You got to get new energy. You got to move cities. You got to, to me, so much is required, whether it's music or just life in general. Like, sometimes you got to switch it up. Like, we're going this way and we're, like, right here. So what do I need to do? Do I need to move? And I'm not saying that as in, like, oh, you got to run from your problems, but, like, I feel like I'm a very free spirit in the way that I'm, like, navigating the world. Like, I'm in tech right now. I have no issue if in 5 years I'm working, like, a blue collar job. Like, doesn't matter to me. Like, if that, there's a part of me that is drawn to, like, working with my hands and, like, being out in the real world and stuff like that, Like, there is a part of me drawn to that.
That small town in you.
That's that Nickerson, Kansas in me. But, like, I just feel like I am very open to whatever, because I don't ever want just, like, that staleness or that, like, I'm ramming up against the same wall. And I think people, like, I don't want to say people should be. I think, like, for me, it's worked well to be open. There's been a lot of sketchier chapters in my life, but it's, like, all part of getting. Shout out Dallas. Dude, Dallas was insane, bro. Like, Dallas was insane. Like, if you would have known me in Dallas, bro, oh my God, dude.
Well, remind me, you were bartending, right?
Even worse, I was bar backing.
Bar backing. Okay, word.
At a country two-step bar.
Like, isn't that random to you?
It is kind of random. It is, but it's not. Like,
Free
Kansas, so.
Yeah.
It's in the family.
Yeah, it's in the blood. But, like, also I was just, like, drunk every day, and then I, like, got on Klonopin, which was, like, a benzo, and I was doing that, like, every day.
I have no idea what those things are, by the way.
Yeah, it's Xanax. It's basically
Okay.
Xanax,
Yeah. Word.
only reason I got off, I lucked out here, is like I didn't have health insurance. And once like my prescription, like I couldn't refill it. I didn't have enough money. They were gonna charge me like $300 refill, and I just like didn't have $300.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, dude, Dallas was, I don't know what you would have thought of me if you met me. I was in Dallas, dude. It was a sketchier time. And yeah, Natty's in here who had some Dallas
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is it about like the I know that we just talked shit on like self-improvement and self-growth and all that, but like what is it about that helps you, quote unquote, heal your traumas?
It's the shift in perspective. Someone once said the best way to change your past, well, you can't change your past, so the best thing to do is to change your perspective on it. It's just as good as actually changing your past. And the more that I improve myself, the more my perception of life grows, and the more enhanced it becomes. The more enhanced my perception of things is, the more I'm able to navigate through lifetime and then also memories, not as a victim, but just as an observer.
Interesting.
So if it's something from my childhood, now because I have a more enhanced perspective, I'm not just seeing like something that happened to me. I can see like what the other people around me were going through as well. Like, I'll always give my parents shit for, my childhood, or like, it's so easy to find things that like my parents could have done better. But they still raised me. And I always like to think like, before I came into the picture, like these two individuals had their own separate life. Like if you think about our lives right now, like, our children aren't here yet, but it's like we have this whole just thing going on before some little intruder comes along that like completely counts on you to survive.
Yeah.
And so now my perspective, rather than like seeing the things that they could have done better, I'm like, man, how did you do it in the first place with what you were going through at the time? My mom gave birth to me at 19 years old. My dad was 20 in the hood, like still like actively running the streets.
It's like they had shit to do. Like, how are they supposed to?
Yeah, my mom like quit drugs and drinking for me. Like that's not easy. Like, I'm like, this is crazy. And so, little things like that, I'm like, now, man, like I don't just see it from my lens anymore. I see all the things that had to take place in order for me to be where I am today. And then I'm going through the moments like that too, right? I'm like here with you, and it's not literally in the middle of our conversation. I'm like, I'm here with my friend, and like, it's cool that we're doing this podcast, but I'm like, man, you had this whole course of life events that had to take place for you to be right here. And like, you choose me as a friend, like in spite of like my imperfections, my flaws, not that you know them all, like obviously, we're friends at a distance, if you will, but it's like, I don't take for granted that like you wanted to talk with me today. Like that's cool. Like it's so easy to just overlook it, but I'm like, and then on top of that, it's like, I know I know your mom, and like, I'm like, there's this whole course of life events that she had to go through in order for you to be here, and your dad. It's wild, right? And so my perception is not just so zoomed in on me anymore. So now I can drive through, annoying traffic and like be aware of the fact that like all these other people have their own set of lives. The guy who just cut me off probably had no idea that I was there.
Yeah.
Like, so that's like the importance of like self-help, if you will, or improving myself. It's so that I have a better understanding of like what's going on here in the world and how small I am and how lucky I am that the universe still chooses me as a piece of the whole play that's going on.
Yeah, because it can be taken away any minute. Like, see it,
Dude.
like we see it.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of goes back to the first point you made in the entire podcast, which is like peace. It's like, if someone cuts me off, like you kind of have two reactions. Like, one, it doesn't bother me at all, or two, this ruins my day. Like,
Yep.
that, and I'm guilty of definitely doing number two. Like, if I kind of have like a short fuse. Like, I can flip.
That's so funny. I have not seen your short fuse. You also seem like a very chill, calm guy.
Yeah, no, I'm very chill, but like also I was raining threes when we played ball. Like, if I would have been missing,
You were missing?
and then they were winning,
Yeah.
we would have had an issue. When you're winning, they're not really get mad at us.
Just keep on with it.
We were just, that was a good day. I was gonna ask you this. You want to slide in? I should have gave you a hair warning.
I know.
What are you most proud of Tarik for?
Interesting question. Let's. Well, where do I look? You can look. Okay. What I'm most proud of is the person he wakes up and decides to be every day. To be inclusive with that. I think in his industry that he's chosen or like his life path, you can get so focused that you lose your peripherals of your life. But for him, it seems as though he's chosen to make it more like a 360 peripheral. So he's like aware of what's going on around him, who's around him, what he's doing, and like the way that he's contributing to his environment, the people around him, and his work in his music. So it goes like so far beyond just music. It's like the things that he had to go through to get to the point of writing it.
Yeah.
And like and the vulnerability in that is insane. He always gives me a hard time that I like don't like to be brushed up against, or like I will avoid resistance. But he's like, whether he's afraid or not, I can't tell, but like he'll do it vulnerable. Like he'll do it afraid and like put his life into a song and then put it out and then let the world decide what they think of it, but he's already kind of focused on the next one. So it's like all these like egoic and emotional hooks that could hook into him and like have him on like a one-track mind or seeking out the wrong things. I feel like he has like unhooked the things that bind him intentionally. And he does prioritize his peace. Like, I don't know if he mentioned, like he meditates like twice a day. And we're in Mexico and I was like, we're in Mexico. Like, aren't you already at peace here? And he was like, I'm doing my practice. Like, and it's certain phrases like that where it's like not just one thing, but like his commitment to like, he's like, yeah, I could skip, but I'm not going to. Like that, I'm going to do it. And so I think just like the person he chooses to be, and I think there's grace in that because you can always change your choice. But he is constantly like working on that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm going to have a better answer as soon as I say that's my answer. But yeah, I would say
That's like, I can definitely see that with him where he's like the 360 is the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, where it's like kind of
things are just
underneath you, above you, all around you. And,
and I think you can feel that in his music. Like,
yeah,
it's because you never really know when he drops a song, like what direction it's going. Like, I really can't say that anytime he drops, I'm like, okay, I kind of know what this song might be.
Yeah.
It's like,
And I'll be hearing these songs over and over and over and over as they're being made, and then I'll hear a bar after the song's been out and I've heard it a million times. Then it'll come on while I'm at the gym, and it like that's another thing too. Like it fits in so well with my other music that like I'm like, oh shit, like that's streak, and then I'll text in the lyric. I'm like, what? Like that is crazy.
It is funny how like you can listen, even it can even take like 10 years. Like you'll be listening to a mixtape you listened to in 2010.
Here's something else
And
that you
you're
didn't
like,
hear before.
that wordplay was crazy, but like you never caught it before.
You know those podcasts where you like go over line by line, like each song, and like bar by bar. I'm like, I would do that for his music. So I'm like, I need to talk about just this one line.
Yeah. Did you notice that I said heal your traumas?
I did.
No one gave me the look. I was like, I wonder.
I peeped it. Also, one more thing. We were talking about the self-help stuff. Y'all were talking about self. I'm over here like on the podcast, but not on the podcast. Like right behind you guys. Like,
We offered him a mic. But
I know. I would say like it's becoming trendy to like work on yourself, and then there's people that have done it for years and years and years, and there's people that have done it and gotten really identified with it, and so there's like this never-ending like loop of things you could be doing to be a better human. And like some people are so obsessed with like running or meditating or yoga, and then you kind of get into these communities looking for like-minded people, and then they're so like identified and attached that it kind of you're like, well, am I doing this wrong? Am I enough yoga for you? Or and it's just this like bottomless pit of like never enoughness. And so I think the peace comes from being like, you're already enough. Like it's already perfect. You just have to like remember that and get back to it, and like kind of use these things as tools and guides, but not like this is the end all be all way, and that like my way might look different than your way or his way.
That's a great point, because like I even had the thought with the basketball league. I was like, I haven't played in a while. Like, am I good enough to go play?
Yeah.
Like, it's been, I'm rusty right now.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, I can, like, it's just basketball.
Yeah.
No, it's just basketball.
Yeah.
When you said that, though, you made me think, like, I think a bad part about the self-help world is it really makes you focus on yourself, which I think, like, lately I've been learning, like, that's not always, like, the best thing. Like, it's not the best thing to always be thinking about yourself. And because, like, there's also, I would even describe it like, I think sometimes it's getting toxic with that, to the point where it's like a friend will bail 10 minutes before because like they don't feel like me, like they're like, oh, I need to like take care of myself. She's sitting right here. I'm just
A friend, podcast guest, and
no, but like, they just like won't show up. But they'll tell you like 10 minutes before. Or, which like I get that, like, sometimes you're in a really bad mood and you don't want to be around people. But there's just, like, a courtesy to that, too. Like, maybe you see that coming and you give them a warning. Or whatever it might be. But I feel like people now, and I'm going to be transparent. Like, I mostly observe this on social media. And I've really taken a step back from social media the last week. Like, but I observe it on social media where I even saw this clip where someone quit their basketball team in the middle of a game. Their coach pulled them. They said, fuck it, walked off. And all of the comments were like, you go, like, good job. And it's just like, that's not, I think the world is bigger than us. And I think that we feel better when we're in the world. So it's just like also disrespectful to other people. I think that's really the thing that bothers me, is if you're going to be like focused on yourself and be like, oh, I'm doing this for me, I don't think that it should
neglect your community,
hurt others. And that type of thing. So
no, I feel that. And I feel like I've been someone who like was so focused on like self-help, but like only focused on myself, not looking at like the world around me, or like I would bail on things. And it was, and then
Oh, I've done it too.
I've
Yeah.
been like, I'm thankful for Tarik because he challenges that, and he's like, are you doing that to be comfortable, or are you doing that because you like actually, like it's actually like in your heart that it's like not in alignment? And there's like differences there. Like think of how you'll feel afterwards, or like, you know, and like the attachments to like, so sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought here. You mentioned having like specific desires, right? And I think with those, when they are so specific, and it's not about the journey or the process, then it's a bottomless pit too. Like you'll achieve it, and then it's like, okay, now what? You're like, I thought this would help. I thought this would like make me feel different. But it's like same thing with travel. There was like 2 years ago, all I wanted to do was like go to Bali, go to Africa, go to Costa Rica. I wanted to get out of here, like out of like out of town. And there was this quote I heard that was like, wherever you are, like, you know, you have to take you with you there. I think you might have said that, where it's like, okay, I'm still going to be the one that does this. So it's really more about like who you're becoming in the process, and then just shifting it from like specifics to like more curiosity, and like getting curious if you're not like totally.
Because it doesn't mean that like those experiences won't add to your life.
Yeah.
But it does mean that if you move,
Yeah.
your problems won't
Yeah.
come with you.
Like it
you
doesn't, you can't abandon you.
But like, I mean, I would be curious about your guys' experience here in Austin, but like I have a new energy here. Like
Yeah.
there's spaces.
You do.
There's like,
Yeah.
it's good here. Like
Yeah.
the vibe is good. I mean, it's
Sunny.
February 1 and
Yeah.
it's 80 degrees out or 70 degrees out. Like there's something to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I brought every problem I had from Kansas City to Austin.
You're like, we'll unpack that in
I
Austin.
said, well, unpacked it here.
If you're aware of that, and that's like totally different, because you're like, yeah, we'll settle that up there. I feel the same. I'm like, I'm here, like all of it's with me. So
Yeah. But maybe it's by the way, I podcasted with this guy before when I lived in Kansas City.
no way.
I just realized that just now.
No, I've been staring at it.
That's so full circle.
Corey Camp.
What?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, I don't want to take the mic.
Yeah. You can just chill.
Okay.
Actually, it might be. Yeah, we're at time. Any last
Closing.
heavy thoughts on your mind?
You go first.
I guess what I'll say, just to what you were just speaking about like canceling last minute on people. I think oftentimes, because I have friends who do that. I've also been the person that's done that.
Yeah, I think
It's
everyone.
probably it's probably been years for me, but yeah, I'm not a saint. But I think 9 out of 10 times, like, it turns out better than you thought it would when you just show up.
It does.
In almost every, you know what I mean? Unless it's someone that you really don't want to hang out with.
Yeah.
Like,
Because there is that.
yeah,
There is that.
That's separate. What you're talking about specifically is like this like last minute cancellation on a plan that you actually do want to attend, or with the person that you actually do want to be around, and because you're so in your own head, like you cancel at the last minute, and it's like a lose-lose, because one, you're so in your own head, and then two, you also inconvenience someone else who has their whole, like, they chose to make time with you, you know what I mean? And like you just kind of like shot that in the foot. So I think just again, this is also overstated, but just show up, especially like when it's like a social anxiety, or like I'm not feeling 100% my best. Like those, just go.
I get that.
Just go.
It's also like you're also like doubling down on the social anxiety. Like,
You're making it worse for the next time.
yeah, it's you just kind of keep going down this path,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden,
Forget how to talk.
Yeah, then you're just like,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm with you there, man. I'm with you there. You have any last thoughts? Closing thoughts? We'll do a round table of closing thoughts.
One, I'm sorry for canceling at the last minute, but I'm happy that you allowed me to come in and jump in on the mic.
We gave you a
We did
second
not know each other until Tarik remembered that you lived in Austin, and I was so excited. I was like, no way! Like, of all the people, that's who I want to meet. And so when we like hung out at Barton Springs, sitting on a rock, I just felt like I already knew you.
It
Like,
did feel that
like,
way.
and I've like, I feel so comfortable around you. Like, you're someone who I like am comfortable sharing my experiences and my traumas with, and so you're in a great position where you are just to like be doing what you're doing, podcasting and like talking to people and letting them open up. But I'm just grateful to know you, and I'm not just saying that because it's recording. But I'm just very grateful for you. It just feels like we've like been friends for so long, even though it's been a very short amount of time. I've like seen you guys on podcasts. I'll be like in the background trying to not make any noise.
Yeah.
Which is incidentally like when I make the most noise. But so I can't wait for the next one. Hopefully this isn't our last, but
Doubt it.
happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been great getting to know you guys. Like
Yeah.
there's never been a part of where it feels like it's new. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or
Like even with Rocky, I'm like, this dog is my soulmate.
yeah, like Rocky and
Can I know each other?
I swear you were like his owner in his last Lolly Fly. I mean,
It was like he was like looking at me, and I knew what he was saying, sort of.
yeah.
But I don't know, he just got me, and I got him, and I'm like, is this like a first time fluke, or are we like?
I mean, you guys are just like staring into each other's eyes.
know.
My favorite was when he was like getting scratched by Tarik, but resting his head
Yeah.
on the coffee table.
Yeah, just staring at me. I know. I looked down below the coffee table, and he's just staring up at me.
I asked if I could bring him today, but they don't do dogs here, so yeah.
I'm glad that you asked though. Yeah. Not enough people who have cool dogs asks to bring them.
Yeah.
So-
So no, he's a cool dog.
Yeah, so don't worry. He's one of the cool.
He's one of the good ones. Yeah. We gotta hang out with him again.
Yeah, we'll have to bring him over. He loves the backyard, so.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks for doing this, guys.